the people I see facing down real corruption now, I mean, they have an underlying, tie into the universe. They understand that justice, the universe bends towards justice. And I see the globalist always pushing an atheistic view, a cynical view, but then when I actually study the New World Order, they are secretly extremely religious, but what would be called the dark side.
Right, I agree with that. And again, the recognition of what we are is fundamental to the change. We're talking about changing the way the world works. We have to change the way we operate as individuals by recognizing first and individually what we are and then begin to act. And as we do, we learn more about what we're capable of, just like a little child. It doesn't end. It continues. That's the whole living experience. And we keep being told, stop thinking, stop contemplating, stop, just fall into the herd. And that is not what humans are intended to be. And this globalist, elitist type of attitude, this paternalistic type of attitude needs to end. And I think, again, it's been with us a long time. Religions tend to be corrupted usually a generation or two after as people discover the mysteries within the religion, within the philosophy, that actually, science doesn't operate in a vacuum either. God created order, and out of that comes, in one sense, some science. And, it helps us understand the creation, but it isn't the creation in and of itself. And that, I think, is, again, getting back to this basic thing about changing the world requires changing ourselves. And getting rid of fear and worry is the first step in making that change. And then opening up our eyes to the things that we can do and acting on them and seeking. I believe it's important to seek the face of God. Whatever that means to you, I think that is incredibly important. And in the seeking is the finding. And I'm not going to tell people.
Because that opens you up. I mean, now the box is gone. When you start to seek it, then you realize that you can see much further than you thought.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then you also get this recognition you're not alone. And then you start to recognize a little bit about what is possible. As you start to run into what you call coincidences and you realize they're not coincidence at all, you start to do things that all of a sudden the resources appear when you didn't think there were any. Those are, that's miraculous living, and it starts with a changed attitude and a changed outlook. And it is a struggle every single day to change who we are, but it is critically important to recognize that's what life is on this planet. From the time we're born to the time we die, it's an evolution. It's a recognition of our strength.
Exactly. The globalists try to create an artificial system where on the surface there's no struggle, but in that is actually the death, of your individualistic drive. It is through the struggle that we are empowered.
Absolutely. And in fact, that's our best learning environments. And, in the one sense, we're going through a rough time in the economy. We're going through a lot of rough times around the country.
And we see the awakening.
And the awakening happens because that's when we recognize our own strengths, because it's either die or live. We have to make choices. And then we start to recognize the neighbors that we have around us who we never even saw before, who have their hand out and always did. That's where the change starts.
Well, beautifully said. Let's take some calls and do one more short segment because Doc's got to go at 30 after, and I really want to get to these calls, but what a profound interview. And I talked to the Doc. It was his idea, but it's funny. At the same time, I've been thinking about folks to fill in more often when I'm working on films or going out of town, and he just volunteered, hey, I could fill in sometime. So we're getting a great list of folks, the Health Ranger, Dr. Nick Begich, Paul Joseph Watson, Lou Rockwell. Let's go ahead and talk to John in Colorado. John, you're our first caller for Dr. Nick Begich.
Yes, hi. How you doing?
Good. You got a question for him?
Yeah, I do. I'm an electronics technician, and I just love what you guys are talking about today. I've always been interested in physics and quantum physics and stuff like that. But anyway, the question I had was, does HAARP use a particular frequency?
Yeah, it does, and it's in the high frequency range, but it covers, and because you have the technical background, you can manipulate the primary signal and create a secondary effect, which actually gives you the range of 16 decades of frequency, which covers everything from ultra low to visible light.
Is that the modulation?
Yes, this is by modulating it or pulsing the signal to create varying effects, and the coupling with the ionosphere to utilize it for creating effects. But it's essentially a high-frequency transmitter. If you can go to the official HAARP website and get the specific frequency. I don't have it right in front of me, but again, it's the narrow band of high frequency that's used then to create this larger effect.
Going back to that question, I never had time to jam in, and then we'll get another quick one and go to break, come back with other callers. But why are so many of these towers near the poles? I mean, is it easier to manipulate there?
Well, you want to be close to where the magnetic field lines intersect the Earth, which is at the poles, and you also need a high available source of energy. And, of course, in Alaska, we have the oil and gas fields of the North Slope. 25% of all the undiscovered oil in the world is in the Arctic. And so that's important. But the magnetic field line locations is the critical element. The closer they are to the ground, the easier it is to inject energy into them, much more efficient.
Is there any evidence they're actually sucking some type of energy source out of the polar vortex?
Well, that's a question that has not been adequately answered, and there's really a question of whether they can tap energy out of the ionosphere, which is
yeah, because you have those magnetic fields, correct, coming in at that point into the atmosphere and into the pole. We'll be right back with more calls. Great question, John. This is Alex Jones with 5 good reasons you should consider buying a solar power generator. Number 1, new climate legislation could easily double or triple your electric bill. Number 2, our new energy czar wants to control how much power your electric company allows you to have. It's true. Total government control of electricity in the name of smart grid technology is coming. Number 3, in some areas of the country, the power grid is dangerously overloaded. And now, new socialist legislation is only compounding the problem. Number 4, dangerous weather is always a threat to local grids. Every year, thousands of families lose their power from weather-related outages. Number 5, a solar power generator provides powerful backup insurance and peace of mind. Folks, I really believe in the solar power generators offered by Solutions from Science, one of my oldest sponsors. You can get more information at www.mysolarbackup.com. That's mysolarbackup.com. Remember, the government doesn't own the sun, so go to mysolarbackup.com or call 1-877-327-0365.
Good day, Jim Newcomer from Midas Resources. January 5th, 2011. Gold opened this morning at $1,380. A 1-ounce gold coin can be purchased for $14.15.76, $707.88 for a half ounce, or $353.94 for a quarter ounce. That's $14.15.76, $707.88, or $353.94.
Again, the Congressional Budget Office sounds the alarm, warning of Greek-style U.S. debt crises. CBO is drawing a parallel between U.S. economy and the Greek economic meltdown. Debt to GDP climbing to unfamiliar territory and deficits rising to unsupportable levels. Hi, Ted Anderson. The Federal Debt and Risk of Financial Crises document the CBO has published is a must-read for every American. Covering the risks of deficit spending, aging population, and rising interest rates spells economic disaster. Call today at 800-686-2237. I'll send it free. Again, call 800-686-2237. Ask for the CBO document. Call 800-686-2237.
Hundreds of nations have fallen to tyranny in the last century alone. This is our last chance to not relive history.
As we're finishing off this agenda, they'll be pulling the rug from underneath Americans at home.
They have tremendous influence on our president and Congress, and they really are calling the shots.
I think it's incumbent upon all of us as American citizens to pay attention.
Fall of the Republic identifies the enemies of our nation, the criminal offshore cartel, hell-bent on destroying sovereignty, and on its ashes constructing world government.
Tim Geithner, Bernanke, they're arsonists. They're asking for more matches. And the Congress is saying, who do we make the check out to?
Today seems like nobody does care. And right now in Washington, D.C., we have seen a fall of the Republic.
Get your copy of Fall of the Republic on DVD at Infowars.com or watch it online right now in super high quality at PrisonPlanet.tv.
Hello. At OfTheField.com, we strive to empower you with wild food preparedness. We get lots of amazing positive feedback, most of which we feature on OfTheField.com. Here's a small sample of all that people like you have to say about the wild food experience.
It's inspiring for many who are affected by the recent downturn of the economy.
I already knew a bit about foraging and edibles, but you take it to a whole new level.
1,000 thanks to you for all that great knowledge. It was empowering.
When I was in the Navy, I went through a couple of quick land survival classes.
Thank you for being an inspiration and for all the work that you do.
I really appreciate the depth and detail of the information.
Thank you so much.
Much love and respect to you from all of us here in the boonies.
Thanks again.
Knowledge is power, and that power brings peace.
Folks, thanks for letting us help you get back to basics. Read all of the testimonials at ofthefield.com. You can order online for you and your loved ones or call 1-888-51-EAT-FREE to share in the secret.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones, only on the GCN Radio Network.
There's been big developments on that top Bush aide. Looks like mind control. Incredible developments on that front. The guy found dead in the landfill. That's coming up in the next segment. Only got 5 minutes left with Dr. Begich. I've hogged him for myself, but we're going to your calls with quick questions. Who's up next here, John? Mark in Minnesota. Quick question or comment for Dr. Begich.
Yes, Doctor. I was wondering your take on, I don't know, I didn't catch the whole show here, so I don't know if you've covered this, but I was wondering about the Gulf oil spill and if some of the toxins could be coming out of the Gulf and coming onshore and developing some kind of a clouds of gas or toxins and killing the birds and animals down there.
That's a good question, Doc.
Great question. I don't have any specific information on that, and I've not seen anything on that. But, you know, we did see a huge release of toxic material there, similar to what we had at the Valdez Exxon spill. But we didn't see those kinds of effects associated with our spill here. So it's hard to say. I think the judges